Hi everyone, it's Rax. I want to show you something very important today on how to make some super godly items that you're going to want to make for your build. And this process is not very intuitive. It would probably be kind of difficult for you to figure this out on your own. I bet a lot of you will be surprised about how this works. I'm going to show you how to make some really godly stuff using the experimental affixes. Have you ever seen these? Have you ever seen like 1.8 seconds of haste after you use a traversal skill or ward gain on kill that you get from those mages? Well, some of the builds that you might play might either require you to wear gloves that have them on them. I made these gloves just now. That's int for my build and the right experimental affix and then health and hybrid health. I made these gloves. I'm going to show you how to do it. Or you might be following a build guide like the one I posted yesterday that shows you that you want to slam one of those experimental affixes on a unique. But there's a problem with that. Not only do you have to get the right experimental affix, you would have to find it as exalted, which is not easy to do. But there is a trick. You can actually craft it on gear, which I'm going to attempt to explain to you today. All right, so there's a lot of pieces here. So let's understand exactly what's going on. So first of all, you go and you kill those little mages, and you're going to get a ton of experimental items, and usually they won't be exalted. Like, this is the most amazing thing ever. It's exalted, and because it has the purple affix, the hybrid health on it, and that might be the experimental that you need. That's the dream. But that's usually not what you're going to get. You're usually going to get something plain like this, or like this, or like this. Then you're going to be like, all right, well, that's decent, and maybe I could use it to wear it, but you certainly can't combine it with a unique because you cannot combine it unless it's exalted. There is no way to make this belt exalted. So if I wanted to slam it into a unique belt, it's impossible. So the first thing that we need to understand is in order to do these really tricky crafts, we need something called a Glyph of Insight. Go ahead, if you have Last Epoch open right now, check your game. Do you have a single one of these? I bet a lot of you have 0. And the reason why is you can actually make them. So I'm making a YouTube video, so I'll probably get screwed here. So let me grab a hell of a lot of belts. It shouldn't be that hard to get one, but we're going to grab a lot of them. So once you start getting a bunch of these experimental items, you're going to get runes of research from killing the mages. Throw a belt, even a shitty one, anything, with an experimental affix, and use a rune of research. At the bottom it says, when an experimental affix is sealed, which is what a rune of research does, it has a chance to give you a Glyph of Insight. It's higher for items with higher tiered affixes. Okay, so we just throw them in here and we seal this off. Boink. And we're looking for a Glyph of Insight to drop. No Glyph of Insight? All right. Go again. And I told you, since I'm making a YouTube video, that it's going to take me forever. And I'm not going to waste all of your time doing that. There we go. Thank you. Boom. Glyph of Insight. Okay. Now that we have this, now we can start doing tricky stuff. So let's transfer that and let's put away these belts. Now, let's say we want to make an exalted item to slam into these boots. Go through your exalts. Remember that endgame tips and tricks video? If you haven't seen it, I showed you how to make all these tabs, how to get these exalts, and how to tune your loot filter. Search for a pair of boots you want to craft on. I just grabbed a random pair of boots. Here we go. And now we're going to make these with our experimental affix with that new Glyph of Insight that we just got. Okay. Changes a prefix to an experimental affix. It only works on gloves, boots, and belts. Does not work if there's already an experimental affix. Okay, so you might say, okay, here we go, Rax. Let's just throw the Glyph of Insight in there, and you got to put a prefix on it first. So you got to put a tier 1 prefix and then use it. Let's just slam it in there. No. Don't do that. This is where the tricky stuff comes in. You can actually tell and calculate exactly what's going to happen so you can craft it. And that's thanks to a lovely little tool that I have Where is it? Right here. Boom. lastepoch.punklab.com/insight. I'll put the link down below. Don't worry about it. Now, this will tell you what's going to happen, and you can manipulate the situation for exactly what you might need. The first thing to understand is every item that you're crafting on has different requirements for what will happen. So for example, on gloves, it's determined by your total affix tiers on your gear. So right now, I have tier 7 on my prefix. I'm going to have to put a tier 1 prefix here just so we can craft. We have tier 5 on the first suffix and tier 2 with no sealed affix. If we put a level 1 thing right here, and then we use the Glyph of Insight, we would get that experimental affix. 8 to 10 ward gain on kill, and then 90 ward decay threshold. Maybe that's not what we want. So how would we manipulate that? Well, maybe we could level up right here. It's determined by the total affix tiers on gloves. Remember, it's on gloves. So as you level these up, then you can use the insight for the one that you want. But if instead we were doing boots, like here, for example, it's determined by the amount of forging potential. And the number that you're looking for here is 4. So what you're going to see is if there's a specific one that you want, and let's say that let's just make something up. Let's say, okay, we have 7, 1, 5, and 2. That's how these boots would be after we add an affix. Just to avoid confusion, let me just add the affix right now. So we put any prefix on. It doesn't matter. Anything at all. Attunement. It makes no difference because we're going to get rid of it anyway. Okay, back to the tool here. So 7152 with no seal. So, and we have 36 potential. We would get the haste and the increased effective haste if we did it right now. Let's say that's not what we want. Let's say instead we wanted this one, Frenzy. Notice how the potential would have to be 33, not 36, for us to get the Frenzy. So how would we manipulate that? We'd do a little bit of crafting. Change the forging potential. It's in multiples of 4. If we don't hit 33, we could hit 29 or 25, down 4, down 4. If we ever hit any of those numbers, that's when we will use the Glyph of Insight to get what we want. Okay, and then belt has a base item. It's by the level requirement. So, for example, if you had this belt with these affixes, this is what you would get based upon its required level. But if you started crafting it up, the required level might change, and then you would use the Glyph of Insight at that point. If I've lost you so far, let's pause for a moment and let's back up and let's refresh. Let's go over what we're doing here. I want to make a pair of boots that are exalted with the experimental affix that I want. Even if I find the boots with the right affix, if they don't naturally come, like this one, for example, if they don't come as exalted, there's no way for me to make this pair of boots exalted. I'm screwed. Instead, I will take all of these mediocre boots and I will use runes of research to farm glyphs of insight. They just have a random chance to drop. Now that I have a glyph of insight, it will change a prefix on an item. There we go. It will change a prefix on an item to an experimental affix. But use the tool to determine exactly the one that you want rather than guessing. There are 3 types: boots, belt, and gloves, and they all have different rules that change which one you will get. Okay? Belt is determined by the item level for the current item. So you would put in, you'd put in the base belt of whatever it is, a chain belt, a nomad belt. You'd put in the prefixes and you would look and see, is this the one that you want? If it isn't, you need to raise the required level to change it. The way you would do that is by raising the affixes. Only then would you use the Glyph of Insight. Boots are based on forging potential. Type in how much potential you have. That's not the one you want. You say, this is the one that I want. Then it's this number minus 4. If you ever hit any of those while you're crafting, then you slam it in and you'll get what you want. Gloves is just based on the total number of affix tiers. One other thing to understand here is you can get higher levels of the experimental affix if you meet these requirements. If one of them is tier 7, you get it higher. If one of it is exalted, you get it higher. If you seal an affix, you get +1 tier. And if 2 suffixes are the same tier, if these are the same, then it's good. So we can add a prefix, get it to level 2, seal it, level this to 5, and if that would work perfectly, you could slam it in and get all the bonuses. Okay, that's a lot of talking. Let's do an example. An example is worth $1 million, right? Okay, we have boots. We're going to pick a random, this one, haste. That's the one that we want. Okay, so I start over. The first prefix is 7. The second prefix is 1. The suffix is 5, and this suffix is 2 with no sealed affix. For boots, it's based upon forging potential. I want haste. My current forging potential is 36. Okay, so what I would do what I would do right now is you can just do it right now. You can Glyph of Insight, boom, and be done. If you start crafting on it, the forging potential will change and you might not get what you want. Okay, so right now, if I slam this in, I would get haste, but that's too easy. Let's make it difficult. Let's say instead I wanted minion damage. So remember, 35 and then keep subtracting 4, 31, 27. Any of those will be perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be messing around with these boots and trying to hit one of these forging potentials. So I'm going to treat the boots like normal, and let's craft a bit. So remember, 35, 31, any of those. The first thing that I see on these boots is health regeneration is not a very good suffix. So let's look and see if there's something better that I could get. Just flat health, I think would be better. I think they can get hybrid health, right? Hybrid health is always goated. Actually, I got double health regen, so these boots suck, but it's whatever. Remember, we get an extra tier if we have a sealed affix of tier 2 or higher. So let's just try that. Let's start by, oh, this is already tier 2. Let's start by sealing this off. Wait, seal it off, and it worked. Now we have it sealed, and the forging potential is 28. Shouldn't work, right? Because it was 35, 31, so we needed 27, right? So our new forging potential is 28. That's not the minion one that we want. Okay, so we have sealed this. This is no longer a suffix, although these things don't really matter for boots. It's all about forging potential. Okay, well, we need to keep crafting and making the boots good because we're going to slam this into our legendary. Hybrid health is the GOAT. I can't believe I'm going to burn my hybrid health shards for you two, but this just shows how much I love you guys. If the forging potential changes, we're going to check it. I automatically know this is not going to work because it needed to be 23, not 24. Right? Let's go back in here and type in 24, but that certainly doesn't work. Let's level hybrid health again. 23, boom. And now it works. Now and only now you use your Glyph of Insight. And are we going to get the minion buff? And it crit to T5. How beautiful was that? That I'm going to need a Kleenex. That brought a tear to my eye. Look at how good these boots are starting to become. Got my T7 Vite. I got my Tier 5 Experimental Affix. I'm building hybrid health. We're getting ready to slam it into a pair of boots, and it's going to be beautiful. That I'm crying. I'm actually crying. Okay. Let's do one more example. Okay. These gloves. Boom. Okay. Now, sometimes things don't really go your way. In fact, all the time things don't go your way. Click on gloves. Okay. Gloves are by the total affix tiers. So we better keep them updated all the time in our crafting process. It's a 2750 with no sealed suffix. Let's make it difficult. Let's say instead we want current health lost. We want the current health and missing health. That's what we want. Okay? That's the one that we want. Okay. Well, once again, remember, if we seal something, we get more, we get a higher tier. Okay, so why don't we open with that? Let's try to seal. Oh, I can't. Never mind. We're not going to do that because I don't have any of the materials, but I would seal it off to try to make it better. Okay, so in order to get the right thing over here, we need to manipulate the affix tiers. So 2750, and we wanted the current health, missing health. We need to level something to level 3, and then we're going to slam the Glyph of Insight. Keep track, though. Sometimes when you're crafting, it can crit. If it crits, it's going to change the levels. You've got to reevaluate the levels at every step. So let's go for hybrid health again. I'm spending my most valuable shards. And I crit, see? I got to be very careful here. Now we're actually in a little bit of a danger zone here. Because we only want to level it up one time, and then it will be the perfect affix. If I crit on this craft and it goes up 2, or it puts this up 1 as this one goes up, it's going to be the wrong thing. So we're going to be very mad if this crits. Perfect. Everything's going so well for this YouTube video. Oh, feels so nice. Double check. 2753. Okay. And if I use a Glyph of Insight, it will replace a prefix, the one that we're upgrading. And you have to be able to upgrade it, by the way. It can't be level 5. It's got to be level 4 at the max. Look what happens if I put this at level 5. It says it doesn't work. So now we're going to use our Glyph of Insight here. And it's telling me that it should switch to the current health, missing health thing. It doesn't get much more beautiful than that. Then you finish the craft at this point. Finish the hybrid health. I only spent 1 forging potential, by the way. When you get to this point, if you get this far, you can consider copying it. Oh, I got 2 of these today? Oh my god, I got so lucky. You can consider mirroring it in case you want to craft it. You slam it into your gloves twice. Another thing you can do is you can use the refinement. Check the value of the lost health and ward per second and the minion damage. You can see that the minion damage is 1 from the bottom and that the current health lost is the minimum. So there's almost no chance at all if we re-roll those values that we'll get anything worse. And we have 46 potential to play with. So we want to get this minion damage as close to 120 as possible, and we want the current health, missing health to be 9. Only pay attention to the values for the 2 things that you really care about. Yeah, it would be great to drill the perfect range for the hybrid health and the fire res too, but those don't really matter. Pay attention to like the 1 or 2 things that you really care about. So we re-roll the affixes. 103 is better than what we had, I think, but 8 is still the minimum. We can do better, and we have 33 potential. Notice how I'm still using the Glyphs of Hope to try to hold on to my potential to do this as much as possible. 102 and 9, that's a pretty good result, and maybe you would settle for that, but we're a streamer and we're making a YouTube video. Of course, we're not going to settle for that. 9 and 108. Now, that's pretty damn good. Now that's pretty damn good, right? The hybrid health rolled pretty well as well, and you probably settle there. And then if you say, well, I just found my 2 legendary potential gloves, but I'm going to be sick if I slam this and I get the fire res and all the stuff I don't want, you can copy it. If you have a rune of creation, these are very rare. You want to use these very seldomly, but if you finally crafted your perfect pair, you can use this to reduce it to 0 potential and get a copy of it. All right? Well, I'm very, very shocked at how well all those craftings went. I guess I could do a belt for you, but I think you get the idea now, right? If you, just quickly, if you were to do a belt, you got a belt. It's about the current level requirement. Punch in the affixes. And if the current level requirement was 54 and this is not what you want, then before you start crafting, look around. Okay, if I level this up 1 time, I don't get what I want. What if I put this one to 4? No. Okay. What if I do that one? No, it's still not good enough. Okay, can't level the prefix. Oh, perfect there. I got to get all of these to 5 and leave this at 4, and this is the one I wanted. Then you Glyph of Insight. All right? I don't know. Is it worth doing a summary? Real quick summary. Take your garbage experimental items from the mages and use a rune of research to generate glyphs of insight. Find really good exalted items that you want to slam, and you have to have an open prefix. When you're crafting and you throw them in there, do not instantly use the Glyph of Insight. Use the tool, click the correct item type, type in the forging potential, type in the affixes, type in the base item, whatever you've got, and then have a plan before you do it. Mess around with it in the tool first before you mess around with it in-game. Make a plan for how you can hit exactly the one that you want. When you hit exactly what you want, then use the Glyph of Insight. Remember, there are certain tricks to get higher levels, like if you seal an affix that's T2 or higher, you have a T7 prefix. If it's exalted, it's going to give you more luck. And beware that critting during crafting can either help you or hurt you, so make sure at every time you hit the upgrade button that you're refreshing the data so you can get exactly what you want. That's my endgame crafting trick for you with the experimental items, and you can make some godly stuff like these gloves, for example. They're just so beautiful. Look how much health int and the ward stuff is giving me 11,000 ward right now. I dare the monsters to try to kill me. You'll probably see a video of me 2 days from now dead, so I'll regret that. But for now, I'm still alive with 11,000 ward. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If these videos helped you, let me know, and I'll make more of them.